Hi, welcome to Beginning with New Testament Greek. My name is Lark Kelsey. I'm recording video lessons to go along with the book by Benjamin Merkle and Robert Plummer, Beginning with New Testament Greek. If you want to learn Greek and you are in a seminary class or you're studying on your own, I hope these videos will be helpful for you as you work through this textbook. The first chapter in this book is mainly on the alphabet, but includes a lot more information. In this chapter, Merkle and Plummer begin with the alphabet, but also cover pronunciation, vowels, diphthongs, breathing marks, accent marks, punctuation marks, and vocabulary for the chapter. So the first letter of the Greek alphabet is alpha. So we say A as in father. Alpha, A, as in father. I invite you to repeat these where you are. The next letter is beta, B, as in ball. Beta, B, as in ball. The next is gamma. Gamma is pronounced G, as in gift. And later we'll learn that it also can have a nasal sound, ng. So gamma, G, as in gift. Delta, D, as in dog. Next we have epsilon, which is pronounced as in echo. We also have zeta, which gives a little zzz sound. There is a buzz about that, and you pronounce it like you would in kudzu. So say zeta, zzz, zzz. Next is eta. This is one of our vowels. Eta is A as in 8. So eta, 8. And then we have theta, which is as in thin. Now we're using the Erasmian pronunciation, but there are different ways that these are pronounced. So check with your professor as to the pronunciation that you should be using. Next is iota, and we pronounce this E as in ski. Iota, E as in ski. Next is kappa. Kappa is a little K. That's easy. K as in key. Next is lambda. Lambda is L, just like an L. And then mu is looks like an upside down M or some sort, but you pronounce it the same. You just have to get used to seeing a little U kind of letter and pronouncing it mm. Next is the letter nu, which looks like the English letter V, but this is the same pronunciation as our letter N, so nu. The next is xi, and you can pronounce that as like the KS sound or an X in fox, xi. And then we have omicron. Omicron, it looks like a letter O, but we pronounce it with the ow. So as in often. So there's an ah, not an O. O will be another letter that we use later on. Next is P. So if you've seen the letter, the math formula pi, this is our letter P, and you pronounce it just like you would the letter P. Moving along, we have the letter rho, and this looks like a little P, but it is our R sound, so rhyme. The next letter is sigma, and you'll see that there's two different forms of the sigma. They basically make the exact same sound. It's an S sound, just like in sand. However, at the beginning of a word or in the middle of a word, you will see that first sigma. And if this sigma falls at the end of a word, you're going to see the final sigma. So you can see the difference in those two, but they make exactly the same sound. Next we have tau, and this is T as in tap, so just like our letter T. And then we have upsilon, so this is not a U sound, it is an U sound, as in boot. And wrapping up the alphabet, we have these four final letters. Phi as a PH sound, so as in phone, so phi. And then we have key, and this is CH sound, as in ache. So you'd say key. So you have that key sound. Then you have sigh, and this is the same as this oops. You're going to have kind of a PS sound. Ps. And then lastly, we have omega, and this is going to be your O, as in obey. So almost a long O sound. Now let's talk more about pronunciation. Like I mentioned before, gamma has two sounds that it can make. It can make that just g, gamma, but when you have two gammas together, your first gamma is going to be what's called as the nasal gamma. So the gamma nasal, you're going to have a ng, as in ring. So these letters together are going to have an ng sound to them. This also happens when gamma is before a kappa, and you're going to have the nk, as in drink. So you're going to add that nasal in there. Then you're also going to see this in front of key. You're going to see nki, as in drink. You may not see that in a lot of words, but you just want to remember to add that nasal gamma when it's in front of a gamma, a kappa, or a key. And in one of our words, we see this is our word angelos. So you start with the ang, and then there's the elos. So you have angelos. So angelos. Within the Greek alphabet, some of the letters are easily confused. They look very similar. And when you're first learning, it can take a little bit of time to get used to what they look like. This is a gamma and a nu first off, and these look similar, but you'll see the gamma goes below the line. The next is zeta and C. You'll see the C has some extra loops in there. And then the next one is theta and phi. So you'll see the theta does not have a line through the vertical line, but it has a horizontal, where the phi has a vertical line. You'll see the nu looks very similar to the upsilon, especially if you're reading someone's handwriting of these. So the nu looks more like a V, whereas the upsilon looks like a U. Then there is the omicron, and it looks very similar to the sigma, but that sigma does have a little dash at the end. Then the pi has the two lines, where a tau only has one. And lastly, the lowercase phi can also look like the psi. So just kind of take a look at all of those and start to differentiate them. And while you're getting used to what the Greek letters look like and telling them apart, sometimes it can be very difficult to tell them apart from the English letters you already know. So our eta, which makes that ah sound, looks like our letter N. So make sure that you start to train your brain to make that ah sound. Then you also have the nu, which looks like our letter V, but you're now going to start to pronounce things with the n. And then pretty soon you'll start pronouncing English words wrong because you will have remembered the Greek letters. Our rho, the Greek rho looks like our letter P. Upsilon looks like a letter U, and so those can be challenging because you're going to have to train your brain to say R when you see a P, and U when you see a U. And then the C, it looks like our X, which is actually kind of helpful because it's a similar sound. And then our omicron, or our omega, looks like the letter W, but just more like in cursive. So these are ones to pay attention to and look out for the differences. Now let's look more specifically at the vowels. Now looking at our vowels, we'll see that we have short, long, and vowels that can be short or long. You'll also see vowels that have an iota subscript below them, but this does not impact your pronunciation of the word. So we have a little dash underneath the vowel in the alpha, the eta, and the omega, and it doesn't change your pronunciation. However, when there are two vowels together in a word, it can change your pronunciation, and these are called diphthongs. Diphthongs are where you have two vowels together and they produce one sound. So the alpha and the iota together make the sound I, as in aisle. The alpha and the upsilon together make the sound ow, as in sauerkraut. The epsilon and the iota together make the sound a, as in freight. The epsilon and the upsilon together make the sound u, as in feud. The omicron and the iota make the sound oi, as in oil. The omicron and the upsilon together make the sound oo, as in soup. The upsilon and the iota together make the sound we, as in sweet. But there are some times where two vowels are together and they are probably a diphthong, but you are supposed to pronounce them separately. And the Greek will tell you when you need to pronounce them separately with these two dots. So with the alpha and the iota here, we see that you would pronounce this ai, not I. So in most of the times we would say this is Cain. However, in the Greek you would pronounce it Cain. We also see the omega and the upsilon together. This would be oo. So this is Moses, not Moses. Moses. Then we have the iota and the eta, and you have ie. Iesus. Another thing in Greek that can affect pronunciation are breathing marks. Greek words that start with a vowel always have a breathing mark indicating whether you need to pronounce it with an H sound in front of it. So when you have a smooth breathing mark, looks like a comma, you would say ah. When you have a rough breathing marks, looks like a little C, you say ha. And my little mnemonic is when I see one that looks like a C, I say come along and say it with an H. That's just how I've learned to remember it, ha. So there is an exception to this. The rho also will take a breathing mark, and that is consistently. But if it does, that doesn't really change the pronunciation of the rho. Also, if a word starts with two vowels, so a diphthong, the breathing mark will appear over the second letter. So let's try this out. Hamartia is sin. That is hamartia. And you're going to see hepta, hepta. That's the word for seven. These aren't your vocabulary words, but these are just practicing your breathing marks. So then you have hemera. Hemera means day. And you have hados, hados. You also have hudor, hudor. Then you have hosanna, hosanna. And then you have rema, rema. Accent marks can impact your pronunciation, but they don't generally impact the meaning of a word. So some professors choose not to focus too much on accent marks. So when you're reading Greek, you'll see these type of accent marks, the acute, the grave, and the circumflex. So this word has three syllables, anthropos. The last syllable is called the ultima. The next to last syllable is the penult, and then the next to that is the antepenult. At this point in your Greek journey, the main thing that you should know is that the accent will help you pronounce where the stress should be in a word. There are some more information on where the acute and the circumflex and the grave fit into the word, but generally you won't need to know this information right now. But we do need to know some punctuation marks. One thing we need to remember with punctuation marks is that they are helpful for us, but they were added to the text. The early New Testament manuscripts were written in all capital letters, so there were no spaces even, so definitely not any punctuation. This is a piece of the Chester Beatty papyri fragment, and you're looking at the first page of Hebrews. So instead of these top 2 lines of text, our modern New Testament Greek versions will have helpfully segmented these into words and given us punctuation marks. Modern Greek New Testaments do not capitalize the first word of every sentence. Capitalization is only occurring in the title of the New Testament books, where every letter is capitalized, whenever you encounter a proper name, and when a quotation begins, and then words that begin a new paragraph. So most of the time when you are reading your Greek New Testament, you're going to be looking at lowercase letters. Thankfully, the period and the comma are just the same as you would use them in English. However, a dot that is above the letter, it's a little bit raised, is similar to the English punctuation mark of a semicolon. So this just indicates a pause, a little bit longer pause than a comma, but not a full stop like a period. Then what we have as our question mark or as our semicolon is the Greek question mark. So when you see a semicolon at the end of a sentence, you're going to need to maybe retranslate that with a question word in it. And lastly, let's take a look at the vocabulary from chapter 1. When you encounter vocabulary words in this book, you're going to notice that each word has an article after it. This is your article that tells you whether this is a masculine, feminine, or neuter word. You don't need to know that for this week, but just know that this eta with the breathing mark over it, as we've learned, is pronounced hey. So when you memorize your vocabulary words, you're going to want to memorize the article along with it because it gives important information that you'll need to know for later. So our first word is agape. This is our word for love. Hey, agape. Next is gay. This is the word for earth, land, ground. Hey, gay. We also see the word geology as a way to help us remember that. The words in red are the mnemonics or similar words in English that can help spur your memory for this Greek word. Next is zoe. Hey, zoe is the word for life. So zoo or zoology, zoe. Next is phone. So hey, phone. This is our word for voice or sound. So phonetics, phonograph, phone, these are all words that have that phone. And then hey, aletheia. Hey, aletheia is truth. Next is hamartia. We'll notice that rough breathing mark. So we're going to say hamartia. This is our word for sin. So hey, hamartia. And hamartology is a word that can help us remember that. Basileia. Basileia. Hey, basileia is a word for kingdom, reign. Basilica could help us remember that. Then we have hey, doxa. Hey, doxa. This is the word for glory, majesty. If you know the word doxology, this can help us remember glory or majesty. Then ecclesia. Hey, ecclesia. This is our word for congregation or assembly, church. Ecclesiastical comes from this word. Then we have hemera. Hey, hemera. This is similar. This is the word for day, and the word ephemeral can help us remember for a day. We also have the word cardia. Cardia. Hey, cardia is our word for heart. Cardiologist can help us remember. We also have de, which means and, but, or now. Ke, which means and, even, also. Men, which means on the one hand or indeed. And then we also have 3 different spellings of the article, or 3 different declensions of the article. We have ho, hey, and to. And these are the masculine, feminine, and neuter forms, but we won't learn that until next week.